Hey everyone, welcome to New to Medical Device Sales, our Q&A, which we do every other week, where we're here to come meet with you all, get to know a little bit more about you all, and answer all of your questions about breaking into medical device sales. Really excited to be with you all today, as before Thanksgiving. Hope you're all getting ready to spend time with family, spend time with friends, make sure that you go enjoy yourself. So I'm really excited about today, just getting to know you all, get to spend more time with you, and again, always about producing more value for you all. So if you guys get a moment, make sure to put in the chat where you guys are from. It's one of my favorite things to do, is see where everyone is coming from. A lot of times we get people from California, New York, Canada. We've been getting a lot lately. We get people all over the United States. And so always like to see where you guys are from, especially now that we are in the holiday season. You never know where you're going to be getting people from, especially what kind of weather they're going to be having. Especially, it could be hot, it could be cold, it could be go. So I love seeing where you're all from. But as you guys come in, make sure to go put in the chat where you guys are from, because I love learning about you all, love learning about where you come from and what the goal is. But as you guys are doing that, today we're going to be going over what we do every single month, how to break into medical device sales, but not only how to break into medical device sales, how you can stand out through that process, right? We got a St. Louis, Missouri. So shout out Kriegs. 1, 2, 3. Coming from St. Louis. I love that. Absolutely so much fun to see when we have a bunch of people coming in and going from the Midwest. But going over how to stand out in medical device sales. So the one thing I'll say is put your comments in, but also questions that you guys have, I will be answering today at the very end. So if you guys have questions, if you guys are wanting to know about medical device sales, we are going to be going over all of that. I always spend at least 30 plus minutes about just being able to provide value, answer all of your questions. So as we get into today, make sure to be dropping in questions, where you're from, all of that above on the chat, and we'll be able to help you. But let's go talk about new to medical device sales. So I want to be providing value to you all about medical device sales, how we can continue to help you throughout that process. And so many times when we're working with people on wanting to break into medical device sales, we have to start with what is medical device sales, how you can go and get yourself to stand out, and a lot more things. So first off, before I go into how to break into medical device sales, just understand I want to introduce myself. My name is Jacob McLaughlin. If you don't know me, I'm from Iowa, small town, moved out here to Arizona. And then from there, I was doing personal training at 23 years old and thought fitness was my life. And then I thought, hey, maybe I should look into other things. And then I was training somebody who was in medical device sales, and they just said, hey, I think you would be really good at this career. And then I started asking some questions, and they end up telling me, hey, when I was 26, 27, I started making, 200 plus. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm not close to that. So tell me more. And then I found out about this amazing career of medical device sales, where you can truly help people. You can sell a product that literally changes people's lives, and you get to work with some of the smartest individuals you will ever meet in your life, which is absolutely a blast. And you just make really great connections and relationships and meet with people who are also go-getters, which is always fun, your teammates. So then I started learning about medical device sales. I decided I wanted to break in, but got told, hey, you need to have all this sales experience. But at the time, I was personal training multiple successful entrepreneurs, and they were running very successful companies. And at the time, they just said, hey, I know that's what they're saying, but you actually don't need all of that, because we hire those people. And so this is what you actually need. They gave me some insight of what actually mattered. And over the next several months, I was able to get 4 job offers with companies such as Stryker, Johnson Johnson. And then I also got Zimmer, and I came in as a full line rep with Medtronic. So I skipped the associate sales rep role, and I was able to come in right in as a full line sales rep. And then I took the lowest performing territory in the nation to top 10 my first year. And then from there went to startup Innovis Medical, where I then closed one of the largest deals and grew that territory. And so my whole goal has just always been, how do I continue to provide value? How do I help people who want to break into medical device sales? So I just have documented it. You can go look at our YouTube, our podcast, New to Medical Device Sales. You will see day in the life of medical device sales reps. You will see a bunch of podcasts. You will also just see the journey. So I always put that because I want to just let you guys know who I am and why you should listen to me. We just announced that we've helped over 2,500 people. So it's a lot of fun. And then not only have we helped over 2,500 people, we also partner with medical device sales companies as well to help them find talent. We just announced our partnership with Vivio. So excited to be with them, but also working with other medical device companies. So a little bit about me. But again, my whole goal is how do I help you guys break into medical device sales? So I just want to dive in and let's get going. But before we go, I do see we got some people out of Austin, Texas. Beautiful area. Love that. And then we see Pensacola, Florida, which is absolutely crazy. Now living near Germany. Love that. So love to see that. Thanks for tuning in. And then we also got some people from the Netherlands and all over. So this is the place that I absolutely love. We see people from all over. So that's a lot of fun. But let's just say, going into our chat for the day, where do you start to break into medical device sales? So the one thing I want to talk about when looking at wanting to break into medical device sales, most people are going to think that breaking into medical device sales is just, hey, I put in a couple applications and then I'm going to go get this job that I help people. But what I always have us have the conversation starting out is you have to understand what medical device sales is. And again, just understand that there's so many different divisions, so many different companies, so many different places that you can go. And it's an extremely competitive area where many people want to break into medical device sales. And so just understanding that this isn't going to be your normal, hey, let me just reach out to people, see what happens, and see if I can get a job. You have to understand that when you're going through this process, that you're going to actually have to understand, hey, who are the companies? Who are the divisions? What are the backgrounds? What is the actual opportunity? Because what most people don't understand about medical device sales is they don't understand that you literally can come into this industry. The average rep makes about $177,000, which again, just understand throughout that process, that puts you in the top 10% of Americans. And then going from there, when you're inside of medical device sales, that you have the earning potential to be in the top 5 and 10%. So that's why a lot of people want to do this, as well as working with surgeons, working with doctors. But the one thing I'll just always tell you is it's not just about the money, right? It's about making the impact. It's about making a difference. It's about selling a product that you truly believe in, that you get to watch it change people's lives. And then you get to hear the stories from surgeons and people tell you how amazing it is and how much it's changed their life. So I just always want to put that background because understand just applying, just reaching out, just doing what you used to do to get into medical device sales will not be enough. You actually have to understand what is in medical device sales, what the background of medical device sales, and which division, which company, which area that you want to focus on, and also where are you at in your career, right? Because that's going to kind of take you on what's that career growth going to look like. So number one thing I always like to focus on is why applying isn't enough. So just understand that the average interview process is going to be 5 to 7 interviews, 6 to 12 weeks long, and we usually see 500 plus people. And so with you on that journey, you just have to understand that you just putting in your application into a job board or putting it into the process is not going to be enough because of there's AI at this point. There's a bunch of things that they do to just try to weed human beings out. And a lot of times you will go apply, and within a minute, 5 minutes, an hour, you'll already have a rejection letter. Or you can also have it to where the conversation comes in of you don't get it until they actually just close the position. So just understand it's always changing and you go through that process. But for you, if you really want to go into medical device sales, this is where it's learning the different divisions, learning the companies, and then starting to network, right? You're going to be wanting to reach out to all of these different companies, different people, and you want human beings that are going to actually help you throughout that process. Because one reason why just applying isn't going to be enough is because you just have to think normally when these positions get posted, they've known about them for a while. So they've actually already reached out to some people. They have some internal candidates that they're probably considering. But also, even if you make it through, right? Let's say you make it through and you're one of the 300 people or 100 people that they're going to like meet with in person. You're just a piece of paper and you don't stand out in that aspect. So what are you doing to have people put you up and have you stand out throughout that process? So they're like, wow, this individual is going to absolutely go crush it, right? So that's what I want you to all focus on is we don't want you just applying because a lot of times that's not going to give you a competitive advantage. And a lot of times with just the weed outs of AI and how they put in for requirements, that's going to weed a lot of people out. But number two, my big thing is for return on investment. We're all about being productive, not just busy. And many times what we see is many human beings coming out, spending hours doing cover letters, applications just to get a rejection letter within an hour. So it's just when you look at your return on investment, it could be so much better compared to just applying because, again, this is such an extremely competitive nature. And you just applying to a job is not going to be enough. But now when we talk about how do you network properly. So big thing is you want to be using LinkedIn. And then when you're on LinkedIn, you're going to be reaching out to these reps. But the common mistake that we see is people reaching out to a rep or a manager, and then they're saying, "Hey, I would love to pick your brain." But the problem is when you say you want to pick their brain, is this is a very competitive industry, but it's also very business minded. And so you have to think that they want this to be extremely professional. They want you to think that they're talking with surgeons. So how you reach out, how you do your LinkedIn messaging, how you are sending any message, they're actually going to be thinking this is how this person would interact with a surgeon, a doctor, a scrub tech, whoever it is that then could hurt their account. So you have to just come in and always be professional. And then when you are reaching out to them, make sure that you're making their life as easy as possible. One of the biggest common mistakes that we see is people just saying, "Hey, I would love to speak with you," or "Hey, I'd love to pick your brain," or whatever it is. They would ask to get on a call, but then they don't put any information. And then what happens is then that rep, that manager, whoever it is, has to reach back out to that individual and say, "Hey, happy to do this, but can you send me your email or can you send me your phone number?" Right. And then now they're waiting on you. And again, so one of the big focuses that we focus on in our program is do the job to get the job. And so when we're talking about do the job to get the job, it's also focused on having you actually show that you understand if you got the opportunity that you'd be ready for it. Now, when you put your number there, you have to understand many of these reps and managers are going to be traveling. They have what's called windshield time where they're going from one account to the next account. And so when they see that, they can just click on your number and give you a call. There's been many times we've had somebody who sends out a message and within 5 minutes, they're getting a call because they shot a message right at the perfect time. That rep or that manager looked at their phone and they were just getting in their car and they got a call right away. So the whole goal when you're going throughout this process is you want to make their life as easy as possible because that's what we want to do with doctors, surgeons, whoever your call point is you want to make the prospect that you're talking to their life as easy as possible. Because if you make their life harder, the chances of them reaching out to you, getting a conversation, setting a meeting, or actually using your product is very low. So just make their life as easy as possible when you're going through this process. Then, now we've talked about like the networking piece of reaching out to people. We're going to talk about how to utilize LinkedIn. But the one thing I'll just tell you guys is start dropping your questions in right away because would love to have you guys put it in. I'll be answering this at the end of our call and at the end of today's webinar. So for me, that's what I want us to focus on is being able to answer your questions. So I'm going to just put some reminders in there as we go throughout the process because I want to make sure that I'm able to answer all of your questions that you guys have at the end. But let's get into how do you utilize LinkedIn the correct way. So just understand LinkedIn is like your online resume. So for yourself, when you're utilizing LinkedIn, you want to make sure that it looks very professional. One of the main things that I see is somebody using a selfie, or they'll use one of the most commons I see is a photo from like a wedding where it's like they've clearly been drinking. It's a little untucked. They're kind of professional, but they're not professional. You want to make sure that you have a professional photo that you have. Now, just understand that doesn't mean that you have to go pay money and get a headshot. That could be as clear as you just getting a phone and standing right next to a well-lighted wall, and then you go take a photo. Especially with a lot of the new phones, new iPhones, you can take a really good photo. So that's what I would sit here and tell you guys to do is like actually just go get a good professional photo done with your phone and then just upload it. Then you want to make sure that you have your about section filled out because the first thing that these managers and reps are going to do is they're going to click on your profile. They're going to read your about. They want to get to know you on a more personal level. And then what they're going to look at is your job history. So just make sure you have all your education, your job history filled out because again, LinkedIn is your online resume. Now, one of the things that I always want to put in because I want to add some value is you want to be connecting with medical device reps and managers. And a lot of times people ask me, how do I start or where do I go? I don't even know where to talk to people at. And so just understand, if you go to, let's just pick a company, Stryker, Medtronic, Johnson Johnson, wherever it is, you can go to them on LinkedIn. And then what they will actually put is they'll put on it, they'll say jobs, it'll just say people, right? And so you can go click on the link that says people on their LinkedIn page, and then that will actually show you human beings that you can connect with. And you can actually filter by the job description, right? So you can actually filter by sales, you can filter by marketing, you can filter by talent acquisition, all of the above, right? And then that allows you to start connecting with those people. One fun fact is, if you're connecting with, let's just say, a manager, many times LinkedIn on the side will also show you other managers. And then you're just going to go press connect. Now, one thing I do just want to say is sometimes you will go press connect and you'll click on it and it just says message. And then they're trying to push you into LinkedIn Premium. There are a little dot on the right hand side that you can click. And then if you scroll down, it will tell you to connect. So you're able to connect with them. Here's the thing. When it says connect, many people, and one of the biggest mistakes we see is people spend time personalizing all these messages before they're even connected to human beings. It's when they're sending the connection. And my friendly advice is don't do that, because if you've done that, you've noticed you've sent a lot of messages and not everybody has connected with you. And so you don't want to spend all of that wasted time. Again, it's all about being productive, not just busy, right? We want to be productive. So make sure that you go and send photos, or sorry, not send photos. You want to go send messages, and you want to be able to have everything set up, ready to go for yourself, with your LinkedIn. And, but you want to have that connection. I actually just lost my place, so I apologize on that. Now, once we have with our LinkedIn, once we have those people that you've connected with human beings on LinkedIn, then from there, you can go and reach out to them, right? We don't need to go personalize the message every single time. But then once you've connected with them, because they know that you reached out to them, that you're wanting to get in med device sales, then you can go reach out to them, send the message that we just talked about introducing yourself and then adding your name and your number. And then after that, once you've added your name and your number, then from there, they're going to be reaching out to you. Now, again, one thing I do want to just put out there is, many times I talk to human beings, they're like, I sent out 10 messages and I didn't get 10 responses. And that's where I just have to encourage you all. That is sales. You are not going to bat 100%. And if you're coming in with the expectation that you send out 10 messages and you get 5 back and that's a failure, that's actually really amazing, right? You have to understand this is sales. And this is why a lot of people don't like sales, is because they could send 10 messages and they take it personal and feel like it's rejected. You almost have to gamify it, is the best way I can say it. Like, right, for example, one of our members, he came and joined literally within 1 week, or 2 weeks, sorry, 2 weeks, he's been on 20 calls. And I was just like, hey, how many messages have you sent out? How did this work out? And come to find out, you know, over 20% of the messages he's sending, he's getting on a call with somebody, which again, from a sales standpoint, that's really good. So you just have to understand how to utilize and how to send out a message. But again, one of the things that I see people who are trying to break into this industry do many times is they're like, oh my gosh, I sent out a message, only 2 people respond out of 8. And I'm like, well, the odds are actually pretty good that you got on a call with 2 people out of 8. So just understand that piece of it. And then with LinkedIn, just make sure that you're staying on top of it. One of the most common things that I see is people come in and they check it once or twice, or they check it 3 times a week. But it's like, if you really want to have success, you guys need to be sending out messages and connections on the daily, and connecting with people on the daily, and checking your LinkedIn on the daily. Because again, what you have to understand in medical device sales is many times you only get one shot, right? So we want to make sure that you guys make the most of these shots and that you can actually get an opportunity when it comes your ways, right? Now, let's go into the most common question. But before I do this, again, guys, drop your messages or your questions that you have, because the rest of the time is going to be literally me just answering questions for you all. That's my goal, is just how can I continue to help you all and answer questions. So put those messages and put those questions in. I will start answering them after this question. But last thing I just wanted to put is how to stand out and land a 6-figure job in medical device sales. So the one thing that people always will see is they'll be like, hey, I see all these positions for $65,000, $75,000 in medical device sales. How are you able to get people at over 100,000, 105,000, right? Like, we just got one of our guys, shout out to Cam. So pumped for him, literally got hired, was only making 75, or sorry, he was making 25,000, and he actually just got a base of 75K and OTE on target earnings of 110 grand. He's 22 years old. And again, many times the question asks, how do you get people hired over the six figures? And so the one thing I can just sit here and tell you is it's because you have to focus on being peer to peer. You have to focus on being educated. So the one thing I'll just sit here and tell you, when people are like, well, what about a job for 65K? And all of these companies are like, well, we only offer a job for 65K. But those are the same people who are hiring people who show up to an interview and they don't know the company. They don't know the products they sell. They don't know the competition. They don't know the mission statement. They don't know almost anything. They kind of just show there and they're like, I'm a warm body with a heartbeat. Like, what job are you going to get me? Compared to the companies that we see who consistently get top talent and that are willing to invest in it, is they're wanting people who have done the work, who have, like we always say, do the job to get the job, have shown that they know with the person that's coming into the position that they're going to be successful, that it's not that they're taking this wild gamble, right? And so what I mean by that, for many human beings, many people that we get on phone calls with, is they literally will send a message and they're like, hey, I want to break into medical device sales. And then they'll message a rep, and we have these conversations with reps and managers. And then they're like, yeah, the person showed up. They didn't know anything about me. They didn't look me up on LinkedIn, which takes 5 seconds. They didn't know anything about the company. They did zero research. And then they just asked if I knew of any jobs or if I could just help them. And so the one thing I just want you guys to know is, like, first off, that's the fastest way to have reps never reach out to you or never talk to you again. But number two is, it just shows lack of discipline. It shows lack of preparation. It shows lack of why you should get this job, because every single person you're about to be on a phone call with had to go through the grind of breaking into medical device sales, had to go through the challenging parts of, I want to break into this industry. So when there's people who are just like, hey, I haven't done any prep, I haven't done any research, I've done no work, and now you're just asking for a job, you're just asking for them to give you a handout. And that's what I just want to say, is many people think by just sending a message or getting on a phone call, that should make it so they should just get handed a job, or handed a job application, or handed that there's an opportunity, because that shows that you're a go-getter. But that's like literally the bare minimum of what you have to do. And so what I would just sit here and tell you is how you're able to stand out going for a six-figure role in medical device sales is, does this company look at you and be like, wow, this person without a doubt is going to be someone who can make us money? And what I mean by that is, what have you done through the interview process? I always share this story. When I was only 27 years old and I was going for a regional sales manager role, right? One of the common things is they're like, hey, why should we take a shot on you? And so I answered this question of why you should take a shot on me is, look what I've done. And then I was able to point back to the proof of throughout the whole interview process, what I've been able to do, plus my history. But was showing throughout the process that I would be successful, because I told them, no matter who's sitting across from you, we're all going to say that we can hit your quota, because we're salespeople. We're all going to be extremely competent. We're all probably very talented and have had success at our past places. But hopefully out throughout this process, I've been able to show you why I would be the best decision for your team, right? And so what I just want you all to know is, when you're able to show, and then you actually have real proof, and you show the research that you did, the hard work that you did, the preparation that you did, the business plan you put together, all of the stuff, that's the compounding effect that will actually have you in these roles and have you very competitive for landing a job around the six-figure mark, compared to, again, many times I just got on a call with somebody who's just got in the industry, and I'm like, who's your competitor? They didn't know that much. I was like, tell me a little bit more about them. They barely did any research. And the thing I can just tell you is, the members that we work with and the people we work with, they know more about the competitors than that person knew after they've been hired for them, already went to sales training, right? And so that's what I would just encourage you. One little tip that I just want to give you all is, so many times I'm like, hey, find out information about them. And the number one thing I get told is, well, how do I do that? How would I learn about them? And then I use this strategy. And I said this with one of our members the other day. I said, hey, if I wanted you to give a presentation about roses, what would you do? And they were like, I would have to go do some research. And I was like, okay, but walk me through those steps. Like, how would you actually do that? And they're like, well, I'd probably go to Google, and then I'd probably chat. And then maybe I would use ChatGPT, right? Like, use some AI. And they started doing that. What I wanted to put out there is, that's how you guys should be thinking about this. There's not always that you're going to have the opportunity to go talk to a med device company, or go talk to people that have already been at this company before you have a conversation. But like, what research are you doing on your own? And then what can you actually come in and then like fact check, right? Is AI ever going to be 100%? No, but you can get enough information to go be dangerous. And then from there, you'll be able to go and actually ask questions surrounding that then make you sound educated. Because again, what we watch is continuously people showing up with hands in their pockets, not knowing anything, did no prep work, don't know anything about the company, don't know anything about the human being that they're on a phone call with, haven't looked at their past history, don't know anything about the competitors that this company goes up against. And then they really just say, "So what's your advice for me?" And then all of the reps are gonna say, "Go network, go reach out or start applying." And just, when they just say, "Hey, just start applying," that's where, they really don't care and they just don't wanna even wanna help you. And that's the fastest way is like, go reach out to a recruiter or just go apply. That's the nice way of a rep saying, "I'm done with this conversation and I don't wanna help you anymore." So that's what I would just sit here and tell you is if you guys really want to break into medical device sales and you want to be considered like a standout person of, hey, I have a real opportunity to come in at six figures. Are they looking at you to be like, wow, my first interaction with this person really impressed me. This person really came prepared. They knew about our company. They knew about our products. They knew about things and they asked really educated questions. That's the fastest way to have yourself stand out throughout the process. So that is a quick little summary of helping you guys with med device sales, but I really want to answer your guys' questions. So right now I'm going to start answering questions. So if you guys have them, throw them in the chat, whether it's just your situation, your background, any questions you have about medical device sales. Happy to go through those. And then I'm going to be just answering some of them. So let me just go look through a couple of them right now to see which ones we have. Again, one big shout out. Love that we have somebody from Germany here. Absolutely crazy for me. It's been the most fun, especially when I go to Europe and then we get to go meet all these different people. So that's awesome. Ryan, met briefly at AAGL a couple of years ago. Happy holidays, Ryan. It's great to see you. Hope you're absolutely crushing it. All right, let's get into some questions. So let's see, John. So I've worked temporarily in an orthopedic DME, bone stimulator, post-op bracing, and have some clinical experience from prosthetics. What is the most effective way to leverage this? Although my time was short, and show the learning curve will be fast. Yeah. So first off, that's a great question and perfect way for you to be able to separate yourself. Now, with this piece, right, is for you wanting to separate it. Number one, you just have to understand your story of like a lot of times with DME, just understand DME may not always be considered medical device sales to some of the other companies. So they may still challenge you on that. So you're just going to have to explain the process, your selling point, all of that throughout at the time of you're having conversations. Now, with when you're saying, hey, this is what I used to sell, how am I going to stand up? Is for you when you're trying to stand out and show that you can brace the learning curve. First off, again, talk about what are you doing, right? So again, throughout this interview process, they're going to be asking you about their products, their competitors. So what you need to be showing, John, is like, have you done the research? Have you actually just been able to show that you are coachable, that you are learning, that you are looking at their procedures, that you are learning that they're competitors? Like you need to be able to show that process because just pointing to the past won't always help you. So in this specific scenario, it will again, do the job to get the job, you learning that process throughout. So you'll be able to point to it, but you'll also be able to point to your time at your DME spot and you'll be able to say, hey, this is how it was. This is what the task that I did to learn A, B, C, D. Then that's going to have you actually be able to stand out of being like, hey, I've already been at a place where I was uneducated. I did learn it. Here are some success stories that I've had, right? Whether that's a sale that you had or turning a no into a yes after you like got objection handling, after you did training. Like you need to be able to show times that you didn't know something that to now you do. Because for you during this process, when you're going into this world for you, what I want you to kind of focus on is this piece of the medical device sales world is they want to see who the best candidate is of what they're doing in the process. And so again, for you with your background, if you already have been able to talk to that and been able to show some of that, then they're going to just be seeing what you did. And then you can always challenge them if they don't feel like, hey, you're going to have it. The challenge that's the easiest is at one point you didn't have it. And then you can ask them, how'd you become successful? And they'll probably tell you, well, I studied a lot and I did all ABC. And then you can say exactly what I'm willing to do, right? So you can actually like turn the question if you're getting a lot of pushback of your learning or you don't have enough experience, because everybody started somewhere and had somebody to reach out to them. So just wanted to put that one out there. But if you need more questions or you need it more in detail, just follow up with that. All right, Jim, what's a good follow-up question after you've had a successful interview by phone? So, Jim, great question. So, a couple things that just matters on where you're actually at, right? And what I mean by that is like understanding the process. Normally, an interview on a phone is going to be with HR, it's going to be with a recruiter, or you're going to have your first call with the hiring manager. They're just going to kind of see how they feel about you, right? I always tell people it's more of a vibe check. So, the biggest thing throughout that process is you always want to make sure that you're closing, right? And so you have to understand what the next steps in the process before you get off every call. And you should understand what the next steps are, when's the timeline of that, and going from that process of it. So for you, when we're talking about like what are some good follow-up questions, even when you're on the phone call, like, hey, when are you looking to hire by, right? For you, what would you need to see for this to be a successful hire? Like some things like that would help you. But also, you just understand like what do the next steps look like, right? Oh, you'd be meeting with me and my rep, or you'd be meeting with one of our reps. Then after that, you'd go talk to two more reps, right? So just have a conversation of you have to understand where you're kind of at in the process, but then you have to make sure that you're asking questions that are going to get you to the next step. Now, if it's more just centered around the company, one of the biggest things that I can always just tell you guys is, especially as we get later in the interview process, is like finding out why they like being at that company, why they're still there, right? Because then again, the whole psychology is you're not just selling to the company needs to sell to you why you should work there as well, right? So there's a lot that comes into this. But Jim, to answer your question really good is like the best way to have a follow-up question after you've had a successful interview call is like ask for the next steps, close on the next steps, and then you have already put into place like when you will be reaching out if you don't hear from them by again going to the next steps and then going through that process. Because otherwise, if you've already had the successful phone interview, asking another question probably is not going to get you very far. But if you had a very successful phone interview, we just need to find out what's the next steps of where you're going. So that's what I would have you focus on at that point. Also, just so you guys know, absolutely love this. Great questions. Again, keep them coming. If I didn't answer it or there's like more details, context that you guys need to add, just throw those in. So let me just look at a couple. Here. Yeah, so let me go into this one. So, working on breaking in from a high ticket B2C coaching space, commission only for 3 years. Okay. Have broken six figures already. Perfect. Just having trouble getting traction with B2C and no B2B suggestions. So, yeah, that makes total sense. So, what you guys have to understand is this is the biggest thing to overcome from a B2C, B2B. So, if you guys don't know that, B2C is business to consumer, B2B is business to business. So, B2C is I'm talking to Johnny, who's just someone I'm trying to get into here, compared to if I'm B2B, I'm talking to a company that I'm trying to get their business, right? So that's just the big difference. Just so you guys know, this is why personal trainers, real estate agents, all of those people still have a hard time. And even insurance agents will have a hard time because it's B2C. And again, med device companies will not consider that B2B business, right? So you just have to be able to turn your experience and be like, even though you don't believe this is traditional B2B experience, this is why I do believe I have relative sales experience. And then you're able to go talk to that. So, for example, with this B2C coaching, maybe you're talking to people who want to get into it, but there's a chance of maybe like I've seen offers where it's like you're talking to entrepreneurs that are business owners that are wanting to do it. And then it's coaching for entrepreneurs and all that aspect of it. So it just kind of more matters about your messaging of like what's your background, who's the avatar that you're working with, and then from there it really doesn't matter at the end of the day who is even the avatar. You just need to be able to say, hey, even though I know you think my B2B or you need B2B sales experience, let's have this conversation of, hey, even though I don't have traditional B2B sales experience, I do have sales experience, and here's why. And then you'll be able to do it. Just so you guys know, we do this with nurses all the time. Nurses will always get told, you don't have you don't have a sales experience, you only have clinical experience, you will only have this. We do the exact same mind frame and same exact tactics for them to overcome this exact question. So you just need to be able to acknowledge that they're looking for traditional, and then you need to be able to show what you're doing because for you, that's going to have you be able to relate what you're currently doing on how that would help you do the job. And again, just understand the whole medical device sales interview process is to tell you why you're a horrible fit, to tell you why you shouldn't do medical device sales, right? So that's what my encouragement would be is they're always going to tell you you're not a good background because we've even had this. You can have good sales background and then they'll say you don't have enough clinical. You can have enough clinical and sales background and then they'll say it's not the right clinical and sales background, right? So you just have to understand that that's what they're always looking for and they're looking at how you're going to overcome the objection. So just understand that's what we can really focus on if you're wanting to really get over how do I come over B2C? Because very common, again, we have whether it's nurses, personal trainers, people from the insurance world, like it all comes realtors, like they're all going to face that. So that's what I'll tell you. All right. Now, if you guys still have questions, feel free to reach them out. But again, I'm just going to answer some more common questions that we get, but I'm happy if you guys have any personal questions that I can answer for you. That is the whole goal for you on this. But some of the common questions that we get asked is like, do I need a medical sales background or like a medical or science related background to get in med device sales? Again, no. Just so you know, many times we just get salespeople from the background of like, let's just talk about this ADP, right? ADP or let's say enterprise. They come in all the time at those places. They're not selling anything that's like clinical, right? The one thing I do just want to encourage you guys is I don't want to say it's a lie, but the biggest challenge that we see is many recruiters, many companies will be like, all you need to have is B2B sales experience. But that's not actually accurate because, for example, if it was just you needed B2B sales experience, then everybody from ADP, enterprise, all those places would just have a job already. They would just be like, oh, I can just go make more money in med device sales. Let me just transfer. There's a reason they don't. Now, number two, the one thing I also just want to make really clear is we still get those people because it's not just like, oh, hey, I have sales experience, because especially with med device sales, everybody wants to do that, right? So those are the other places and the other pieces that you need to understand when you're coming into here is, again, sales experience is not that. It's not going to just give you a shoe in. And the last piece on the sales experience that I do want to talk about is, one of the most common thing we do is we beat people from like, let's just say enterprise, because here's the one conversation that we always have is like, let's just say enterprise. Most of the time, you're not hunting at enterprise. You're not going out and finding new clients and having conversations and closing a bunch of deals normally, right? I'm not saying that's not everyone. There's some executives and stuff, but normally what it is you're having people who already booked, already had conversations, and you might just upsell them if they want to refill their tank of gas or whatever it is, right? And there's not that much actual B2B. So it's always funny to me when they're saying, hey, that's what's going to make a better sales rep. It's not. And we beat them out consistently. And we still have to work with those people because, again, just understand this. Oh, all you need is sales experience is not true. So do you need a medical or science background? Nope. But you can do it with sales. You can have not that. But again, just understand just having a sales background won't get you to just having a job in medical device sales. So some of the common mistakes that to avoid when you're breaking in that we get asked a lot is it's really going back to just knowing that this is an industry that truly you're going to be working with surgeons and doctors and people that are all very professional. And a lot of them have spent 10, 15 plus years of their life learning. And then their whole job is working with people. But I think it was best said by Dr. Blackwood, right? Is what you guys don't understand is Dr. Blackwood, every time he goes and does a surgery, he actually is liable for what can come up. If there's something that goes wrong, like he's liable for getting sued. So you guys just have to understand like how serious this really is and how important your job is, because many times how you approach one thing is how you approach everything. And then we see it many times of people being like, hey, if I get this job, I just get this job. But then that's why they wonder why they're not getting jobs. It's because they're actually taking an approach that's very lackadaisical towards a very hardcore opportunity. So that's what I would just sit here and tell you is focus on that when you go into that. All right. Again, if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. But how much travel is involved in medical device sales? So one of the common things that we see in medical device sales is it's going to be dependent on the company that you're a part of, the division, and the territory that you run. So many times a misconception that people hear all the time is, oh, you're in medical device sales, you're going to travel all the time. You're going to be just living on a plane. And even though that could be true, I would say it's usually not that true for the fact of it matters what division, because again, There's territories that are just Phoenix, or there's territories that are just Phoenix and northern Arizona, right? Like I just talked to somebody, they run northern Arizona down to part of Phoenix, right? They don't like there's a freeway, and then after that freeway, they don't go past it. So for them, they're actually never on a plane. They're never going to be actually traveling. Now, again, every once in a while, do they need to drive to accounts up north? For sure. But it's not like it's an every single day that they're always on it. So it just matters. What I would just sit here and tell you for you all is like it matters on what division you get in and what your territory is. Because again, for example, I ran when I was at Medtronic, Arizona, New Mexico. Like I traveled around Arizona a lot and just driving, but then like going out to New Mexico, it just depended on how much they needed me. But a lot of times it was like maybe once every 6 weeks, once every 2 months, right? And then if there was times that it was like I was out like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, I would just plan it, but you could actually get it to the point where it was like a lot of like day trips. So that's what I would just sit here and tell you guys is just doing your research on how much travel is involved in medical device sales. It's just going to be dependent on the company and the division. And that's why it's so important to do your research. Because again, I get on calls and have people get on them with our team, and they're always like, "Oh, you just travel all the time. You're always on an airplane." And it's like, yeah, you can be, but that's not always true. So just hopefully that can be helpful. All right. So let's go into here. So, how do you foresee the industry changing in the next 5 years in regards to acquiring new accounts? Yeah. So, I think that's a really good question. Again, this is the one thing I'll just always say when it comes to questions like this is it's going to be dependent on the division, it's dependent on the company, it's dependent on like what the landscape of it is going to. So, like for me, I think it's just going to be very like medical device sales. Again, we can talk about medical device sales, but it's like that's like explaining it as United States. And then it's like, well, Alaska is going to be different than Florida. Right. So it's the same thing in medical device sales is it matters the division you're in. It matters. Like I just talked to somebody who's in wound care. Wound care is known for every 2 or 3 years. Like they're going to have a lot of big regulations because of how it's ran. Well, that's them getting accounts and acquiring new people and new products and new prospects is going to be way different than somebody, let's say, for example, who's doing GYN, right? And so that's what I would just sit here and tell you is like for me, I see there's like a lot more opportunity, but it's going to be dependent on what division you go in, what company you're a part of, where it's like growing. Like, for example, if we're just talking about, let's talk about the robotic space, there's a lot of opportunity. I'm talking with like one of the companies we're with, startups, like they're in AI, they're doing aspects of them. Like they have all the opportunity for getting new accounts right now. But again, it's also going to just depend on what company you're a part of, what division, what's your territory. Because I just talked to a company that, again, in the overall USA market, they own 85% of the market, right? So it's like, yeah, they could keep trying to grow, but at the end of the day, they already own the majority of it. So for them acquiring new accounts and new customers, it can be kind of challenging because when they already own 85%, it's just gonna be a different game. But I would just sit here and tell you, like, the forecast for the medical device sales industry, like, it's very good because, again, if you guys just do some research and look, you'll see that there's always money getting pumped into this area and system, and there's a reason for that. So that's what I would say going through that piece. All right, John. Have you noticed communicating with surgeons can be difficult compared to other staff? Oh, John, like that is the number one thing of why this industry is challenging is because yes, you just have to understand it also will vary by what division and like what specialty they are, right? And what I mean by that is, for example, an orthopedic surgeon is very different than a GYN surgeon. That's way different than a neurosurgeon, right? It just takes a different human being to go and do those different specialties. And so, like, you just have to learn there's usually a different, like, there's more of a stigma around certain specialties of like surgeons that you have to know, but like then also it's just getting to know the person that you're going to be with. So yes, I will just sit here and tell you as somebody who's worked with a lot of surgeons and friends with surgeons, all the stuff, they are absolutely amazing, but each surgeon is going to be different that you talk to. So you have to just understand. But one piece I do want to just hit on there is it's just understanding that everyone in the OR room, and this is why I think it's very interesting when you are a medical device sales rep, and let's say you're in the OR for your product, everyone you're talking to is usually at a different education level and a different pay level, right? So let's just talk about, like, for example, a scrub tech. Normally, a scrub tech is they a lot of times they don't have a 4-year college degree, and then they're usually not making more than 75, $80,000, right? Or it can even sometimes it was like under 60,000, $55,000, right? So like you can be having a conversation with them and they're like setting up your device, and then you're talking to the nurse who the nurse usually had a 4-year degree, but they're making, maybe the 75 to 100 depending on where you're at in the country. And then from there, you're going to have the PA walk in, right? And then that PA is probably making 100 in the mid 1 to 200s, right? And then from there, you're going to have a surgeon who's done 15 plus years of schooling, like a lot of times depending on where they're at, is making anywhere from 3 4 5 plus 100K, right? And so like you just have to understand every single person in the room is different, has a different education level, has a different background, has different life experiences. And so that's what I would just encourage everybody to think about as you are doing this process, because it can be extremely extremely challenging when you're trying to figure out, hey, how am I actually going to like stand out? How am I going to get actual people where we're going to have, hey, I want to have them prosper, but you also have to make sure that you're being smart, because if you do some silly things and say something, let's say something you would say to a surgeon to a scrub tech, you might get treated a little different. So that'd just be my encouragement. But have enough time for about one more question. But one other thing I just wanted to put out there is like we're going to give you guys some resources, because it's always about giving you guys some, always providing value, giving you guys some more resources to help you. But a couple of things. One thing that I did just want to put in here, kind of to end it, if you guys don't have any other questions, is like, what's a typical career path and opportunity for advancement? So just understand, like, a very normal way is we hear all the time, hey, I want to have a career that continues to have an upward trajectory. And just understand in medical device sales, right? Many times it starts as an associate, or if you have a clinical background, we can also get you as a clinical specialist. Starts there, and then they have the decision to either A, if they're clinical, to continue to go that clinical route, or you can go from associate and clinical to a actual full line rep, which is called the territory manager. Again, every company will call things different. So maybe it's a territory manager, maybe it's account manager, whatever it is. So you have a territory manager. And then from that aspect, then a lot of times they'll go from a territory manager to like a senior sales rep. Then from a senior sales rep, a lot of times they can go into like a field sales trainer. And then from there, they can also decide if they want to go into management. And then you kind of have two splits of where people either want to stay on the sales side of things and they just want to stay at rep, or they go and decide to go the more corporate ladder of, hey, I want to go into management and climb the ladder. So those are some fast ways that you can always do it. But one thing that I always want you guys to know is I just want to continue to provide value for you all. And so for me, I want to make sure that you guys are always getting value. One of the most common things that I hear from people is like, hey, how do I actually know where to start? What are some of the companies? Like where are good companies? What are good divisions? So just so you guys know, I just put in a link in the chat for you all that you guys, if you want to, just put a thumbs up if you guys have filled it out. That way we can know who it is and who to send it to. But the one thing I'll just sit here and tell you is that's a list of a bunch of medical device companies. There's over 100 in there that we're always sending to you all, that again, will break down the companies. They'll break it down by division. We'll also break it down by size. A lot of times we break it down by that one is size of revenue. So just to give you guys an idea, because everybody's different on their journey, and some people want to go and actually, hey, I want to learn from, I want to go to a big company, or I want to go to a small company, or what's the difference? And so there's those aspects of it. Then one thing I just want you guys to know is we also are always here just to provide value for you all. Many times people just reach out to us and they're like, hey, I just need some more information. I need to learn more about medical device sales. Is my background a good fit? Actually just had this conversation our team did with a nurse today. So just have that conversation of, you guys can put it in. I just put the link in. You guys can go and just fill that information out. Our team can give you a call. Just understand we're all about just providing value. Hopefully this has been helpful and valuable for you all. We'll also, again, give you guys those PDFs. So just want to send that to you, and for you as well. We just want to make sure that if you have questions that you get those answered, because I think the biggest thing and the most challenging part of trying to break into medical device sales is you just get so much conflicting advice. And then also from there, a lot of times it's, who do I listen to? Because you're going to get people saying, hey, do this. Some people say that, but just understand, for me, we're just trying to give you advice from somebody who our team and we've helped thousands of people break into medical device sales. It is a lot of fun. Absolutely love doing it. And again, just understand, if you're wanting to break in, you just have to understand this isn't like your normal, hey, I just was a nurse, or hey, I just apply, or hey, I just hope I reach out to know somebody. That's not going to be enough. It's going to be, hey, I actually want to stand out. The last piece of advice I can give you all is, like I said earlier to start this, is we have a podcast, we have a YouTube channel, again, all free for you guys. Please go check those out. We've documented the whole journey of me being a personal trainer, saying I want to break into medical device sales too, now where we're at. And so I would just encourage you to go check out the podcast, YouTube channel, because again, hopefully that can continue to be helpful for you all. But I just want you guys to know we're always here for you. We're always here to provide value. Again, hopefully this is helpful. If you guys have any questions, you guys can always feel free to reach out to me and the team. And we're always here to help you with your journey of breaking into medical device sales. But just want you all to know that it is absolutely doable. It is absolutely possible. You can break into medical device sales. It is absolutely an opportunity. And if somebody says you can't, it's just usually because they don't know how. And so that's what I would just continue to encourage you guys. But we will see you in a couple of weeks as we do these every so often and every other week usually. And we will see you on the next one. But I just want you guys to know, if you have any questions, please feel free. You can reach out to us on LinkedIn, or again, you guys can go to our website, click on the link, schedule a call with our team, and we can just give you more information of how to help you break into medical device sales. And if you guys are truly, truly serious about breaking into medical device sales, but want more mentorship, more coaching, again, we do that. We've been able to help thousands of people do that. If you're just tired of guessing and you just want to be told A, B, C, D, we do that. And also, just to end, as we work with medical device companies, we have people reach out to us. Just this week, we actually have 5 job listings come in because they're like, hey, we are looking for these in these certain areas. Do you have anybody for us? So just understand it's a lot of fun for us. We love being able to help people. And I hope you all have a very happy holidays. And we'll see you on the next one.